Hello, welcome to the Draft Talk podcast. We're back talking all things NFL draft. And I know what you're thinking, all of you wonderful listeners and or watchers of the Draft Talk podcast. What's going on this episode? Which position are they going to cover? Which of their legendary top fives is it that we're going to learn some more about this week? It's an offensive line, defensive line, receivers, corners, even tight ends. What could possibly be next? Well, hey, pump the brakes, hold your horses. We're going to interrupt our top five series to bring you another mock draft. Plenty has changed since we did our first one back in January. Can you remember? Start of January? Bloody hell. So we thought it's about time we did a mock draft 2.0. It'll be myself, your host Brian, and as ever, it's Owen and Stu. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Brian. Post combine now, so probably the perfect time to do another mock draft, although it is slightly awkward with all the rumble free agency. But yeah, it's a little bit in between, isn't it? A lot will change between now and free agency, and a lot has changed between now and last week. So yeah, an interesting discussion.
Yeah, it is a kind of difficult time to work that one out. We have trades happening almost as we speak, people requesting trades and things as well. So it certainly has changed the perspective, even since we talked earlier in the week about doing a mock draft this week. There's been a few things that have happened that might impact it, but that's the nature of the draft. We don't know what we don't know until the night of, and even then it can change. So good fun time to just do it, have a bit of a break from the top fives and see what interesting scenarios we can play out.
Indeed, you sort of need to do on 3 times a day to keep up with everything. But we haven't quite got time for that. But yes, we are going to do one today. Stu's done the randomizer. He's going to do the first picks, then myself, then Owen, and then keep filtering through till we've done all 32. So off we go. It's you with the Titans pick number 1. What are you going to do?
Don't know yet. There's a few options that we could go here, and I think that the Tennessee Titans might, if something doesn't happen before the draft, might sit and while the clock down a little bit before they make that final decision. There has been a lot of rumours that the Giants might try and flip picks up with the Tennessee Titans, so I would certainly be open to. I know we're not going to do lots of trades in this mock draft, but it is one that is a very realistic trade, and if the Giants GM, which I think is Owen in this scenario, wanted to jump up, I wouldn't say no to it.
Yeah, I think we have a discussion about it because I think in terms of timing, if the Titans want to maximize what they can get from the Giants, now seems to be the right time to do it before the desperation of free agency hits, before they clamour to try and get a veteran in there. So it's either, in terms of maximizing value, you do it now, or you do it on draft night when you have a few teams maybe clamoring for the pick. So I certainly entertain it, and the Giants are sat there with no quarterback on their roster whatsoever. So I'm quite happy to make you an offer for number 1 if you're interested. What does it cost? Probably 2. It's, you're not going up that far, and it's not like we're going up for a unbelievable prospect. So
yeah, I think I don't know the exact trade values. I've not brought up the trade value calculator, but I wonder about whether a day 2 pick and a future day 2 pick might get it done. Something like that. The second this year and a conditional third, it could be a second the following year, something like that. Would that be? Because it's not a lot you're changing.
If I was the Giants, I'd want to try and hold on to 34, so I'd maybe offer you 65 at the top of the third and next year's third or fourth or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a huge difference if the Titans are not married to a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's behest them to flip this pick out, just to even pick up a little bit.
And the fact that they are actively shopping the pick shows you that they haven't fallen in love with Cam Ward this early. So I'll offer you 65 this year and a third next year to move back 2 spots if you fancy it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, and it gives the Tennessee Titans a little bit of breathing space to think what they're going to do. If they've not hitched themselves to a quarterback, their front office and their coach has a little bit of time the Giants don't have time, and I think that's why it might make them a little bit desperate to make a move.
Yeah. People who are watching this are thinking, what the hell is he doing? Because I've got the simulator running at the same time and I've absolutely messed up that trade. So we now have the Giants picking twice because I didn't actually offer number 3 in the trade. So I'm just fixing that. We've completely... Hang on.
So you're just going to have the Giants pick at 1 and 3?
That's what it... No, we're not going to do that. I'm just trying to still... Yeah, 3... Yeah, because we need to give the Giants number 3. I can't seem to get the trade. I've completely messed this up. Anyway, yeah, ignore that. It is going to be the thing. So, we're going to take Cam Ward, number 1, for the Giants.
Yeah,
fairly straightforward. I think
if they're trading up for a quarterback, that is the only player I can see it being.
Yeah.
Okay. A trade. Nice. That leaves myself picking number 2 with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, what a situation they're in. Do they go quarterback? They've obviously got Deshaun Watson. I don't know. I'm gonna go. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna go Abdul Carter.
Yep.
Myles Garrett looks like he's on the out. He certainly wants to be on the out. Abdul Carter's, for most people's money, one of, if not the best players in the draft. There you go. You've got your Myles Garrett replacement, and as we'll get on, I don't think the other quarterbacks are worth picking it too. But there we go. Abdul Carter, pick number 2.
Trying to find a spot for Shedeur Sanders is awfully tricky in mock drafts.
I think that's a sensible pick as well. I think that the Browns, if they don't pick a quarterback, need to go trenches either side. And when you're looking at all the players that are available, Abdul Carter is the highest ranked trench player on either side of the ball. So I think there is talent on the flip side into round 2 that they could dip into that offensive line as well. So Abdul Carter is a good pick.
It's
Stu.
Back to me, yeah. I think if this was the scenario, the Titans have come out and said that they wouldn't give up a generational talent. Is Travis Hunter a generational talent? He has an awful lot of potential and he's a really good football player. I think
you could call him a generational athlete.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable call. And they do need help on both sides of the ball. You know, they could take the pick of where they wanted to play him, because their receiver room could use work. The cornerback group is a bit better than the wide receiver, but you're not going to say no to him playing there either. So yeah, it's got to be Travis Hunter for me. So he will go to the Tennessee Titans.
Which sort of makes their trade down from 1 seem pretty good, because you get a player that you might have picked at 1 anyway, plus the extra pick.
Yeah.
Nice. Back to you, Stu.
Yeah. So the New England Patriots, for me, in this position, their offensive line is a mess. They really need to help Drake May. They do need to help him out with pass catchers as well. But I'm not sure I'm going to pick anybody at 4 as a pass catcher. I think they could get wide receivers later on. They could do something in free agency as well. They've got boatloads of cash to play with. I'm going to pick who I think is the best offensive lineman on the board, and that's Armand Mambu. I think they need a tackle on both sides. He's played right tackle. Let's put him in at right tackle and figure out the left side initially. He had a really good combine. He was very athletic. He's done himself no harm. His tape's been very good from this year. So I'd have no problems picking him at number 4 for the Patriots.
Yeah, that's a potential trade spot as well. That if someone wanted to come up for maybe Sanders to jump the Raiders or something like that, that's a potential spot. But I don't think any of us are interested in doing that.
No, we've had a big traded to start with. Let's not. So myself with the Jags, I'm going to go Mason Graham. I think he's another sort of generation, but very good defensive lineman. Yeah, he's pretty. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. Yeah, best player available. Bit of a need.
There's some talk about him after the combine because he measured in lighter than he played at, and then didn't test. So we could do with seeing what he tests like at his playing weight of 315.
Yeah, I think he weighed in the 290s, didn't he?
Yeah,
he cut quite a bit of weight and then had that heel injury.
Yeah, which just seems a bit odd if you weren't going to test. Why cut down the weight if that's what you've cut down the weight for? We're just speculating there. But you can't. The tape's the tape, right? And he's an excellent prospect.
Mm-hmm. Align yourself with the Raiders.
Yeah. I'm in a bit of a pickle here already. I'll be honest with you, lads.
I think this is going to be the theme for quite a few of these picks.
Yeah, because you could go in so many different directions. Is this the Shedeur Sanders spot? I could go Ashton Genty here as well because they really need a running back, and would Pete Carroll like to have that type of running back in the room? They need wide receiver, but I think it's too early for a wide receiver. I think they'll go later in the draft than we are maybe expecting. I would have liked Mason Graham to have fallen here because I would have taken him, but he hasn't. I'm going to go Ashton Genty. I think because I think they'll want at 6. They'll want to at least get one of the top players in the draft. That is Ashton Genty, and they already have a decent offensive line, and they'll be able to run the ball effectively. And so he is an excellent back. So I'm going to pick Ashton Genty.
He'll help out whatever quarterback they do get in there as well by being able to have that option to run the ball. They have a bit of an underrated offensive line, actually, the Raiders. There's some good players there. So, yeah, I was eyeing up Genty a little bit later on, a few picks in time, but that's gone now. So that idea's out of my head.
Well, who you know, eyeing up at 7. You're back on with the Jets.
Again, the Jets have lots of options about where they could go.
Yeah, so you've played yourself here because Membo should have been the perfect fit for them at right tackle.
There is a spot open at right tackle there. They could do with someone on the interior of the defense next to Quinnen Williams. They could do with wide receiver help. You know, they've got rid of Devontae Adams. They only really have Garrett Wilson as that kind of number one. There's a couple of tight ends that might fit there with them. But I'm going to go for Will Johnson at corner. I think that he's a player who has kind of gone off the radar a little bit, but his tape, particularly from 2023, is so good. It's a sneaky need because the cornerback opposite Sauce, who's it again? DJ Reed is possibly hitting free agency. Yeah. So let's pair a good young corner with another good young corner. So yeah, Will Johnson at 7 for me for the Jets.
Nice. Which back to me with the Panthers, who are back in love with the quarterback for now. But still plenty of needs.
Their defense was awful last year, but they also need to give Bryce Young weapons.
Where is he going? I'm trying to find.
Is that far down? You're not drafting him, are you? You're for?
It's difficult because you're weighing up. Do you want to give your young quarterback the tools he needs, but also you're not winning anything with the defense they've got? Difficult. It is difficult. I've just done a 7 round for them, and I found it in one way it's easy because you know the type of players you want, but the values are quite similar all the way down the board.
I'm going to have them take a bit of a punt and go for Shedeur, the edge from Texas A&M, who incredible athlete. Not much production.
1.5 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons.
Which is kind of crazy. You could fall into 1.5 sacks. So
yeah. Also, that Texas A&M, they all played far too heavy. We may talk about Nick Scorton later on, Shamar Turner as well. That none of them were productive, and they were asked to play way too heavy, which goes into the projection, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they're they'd be happy to take a big upside risk.
Oh yeah, perfect pick, yeah.
So, practice yourself a line.
Yeah, and you have stumped me a bit because I think Shamar Stewart would have been the exact type of player that the Saints would want. Look, the different directions you could go. I mean, defensive line has to be the main target for them because they're getting older. Offensive line, they need help as well. Receiver, and they need a tight end too. Do you prefer the value at edge or receiver? I still think it might be early for receiver. And the edges that are left, what is their type? And I think they like athletes, right? They like size, they like athletes. So I'm going to go a bit different here, and I'm going to go Michael Williams. And I think this is early in terms of what analysts think, but I think the NFL is much higher on Michael Williams, who doesn't have a great deal of college production in terms of pass rushing, but he's excellent against the run and offers that upside. So this may feel early, but I think his range certainly starts here in terms of what NFL teams think of him.
Yeah, he seems like that kind of athlete with traits that the Saints seem to like at the edge position, isn't he?
Indeed. Stu with pick number 10 on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, this is where I wanted to pick Ashton Genty. But Owen got in there a few picks ahead of me. Up until very, very recently, this was O-line or nothing, but they've done a bit in free agency. They've got in Jonah Jackson from the Rams. It looks like Joe Thuney. I don't know if that's signed and sealed yet, but
they can't because it's a thing with Jonah Jackson, because it is a trade. It can't be ratified until the new league year officially begins, and then the trade can go through. So it can't actually
officially. So they're making big moves on the offensive line, or at least attempting to. Is the but
enough to stop you?
Not really. Jonah Jackson didn't have a great year when he went from the Lions to the Rams. He was ousted, but he's going back to the offensive coordinator he had at the Lions. So, and Joe Thuney, if he does go through, great player as he has been, Joe Thuney's not going to be around forever. So I am still going to pick Will Campbell. He, as we've spoken about, is one of the best offensive linemen in this class. He can compete for one of those guard jobs. You know, it's not a given if they trade for these guys, they're going to automatically play. He could play at tackle if need be. He's a good contingency if something goes wrong, and gives him an option to get the best 5 guys on the field, whatever combination that Ben Johnson decides to go ahead. And I think it's a little bit of a slide when we've seen Will Campbell before. We've seen him go a bit higher, but I'm going to stop a slide here, and he's going to go to the Chicago Bears.
I think they would even give him a look at centre if needed. He's tall for a centre, but if you're talking about getting 5 guys on, all right, he's only being a left tackle, but I think he could be just as good a centre as he could a guard.
Myself, pick 11 with the 49ers, who, might have had a look at Will Campbell, I think. I'm going to go similar. I'm going to go with tackle Kelvin Banks from Texas. I think if you're going to pay Brock Purdy, which they're obviously going to sooner rather than later, probably, you might as well look after him. Obviously, we've got rid of Deebo Samuel, so maybe that's a need, hoping Ricky Pearsall will pick up from last year's draft. So, yeah, tackle there. Dirty up your line a little bit.
They're going to have a hole to fill. I presume they're not going to pay Aaron Banks at guard, and so you could play Kelvin Banks at guard as a rookie before they decide what is happening with Trent Williams, and then on the right side, what's his name? Anyway, he's not stopping you from improving at right tackle, so you could always flex him out there if needed. So yeah. Good way to go, because you've got the future, and you've got someone that you can plug and play at guard to start with.
Yourself, Owen, with the pick 12 Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, so many ways you could go with this pick. I know they've just paid Odigizua, but they could go defensive tackle, could go offensive line as well with the retirement. Could do with a wide receiver too, but running back, and giving them Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. I'm big on Omarion Hampton. I absolutely love his tape. I think he's going to go a lot earlier than people think. I think he's certainly going in the first round. And if Gentry's gone, I certainly think he's in position here to at least be talked about as a potential Cowboys pick. So yeah, I'm going with Omarion Hampton.
Don't mind it. Stu, the Dolphins are 13.
Yeah, it's almost our three teams in a 1-2-3 run if it wasn't for the Colts, but never mind. Yeah, so there's lots of ways. Again, Dolphins could go. I think the offensive line definitely needs some attention. There is the interior of the defensive line. Pass rushers a sneaky need as well, because Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips haven't always been healthy, although Chop Robinson did better than I anticipated in that role. It looks like they're not going to bring back Javon Holland at safety as well. So that's a consideration. But I am going to fill a linebacker need and pick Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama. I think that he would be an ideal player for them on that second level. He's really disruptive, and he can play in pass coverage and run defense. He's got very good short area quickness as well as straight line speed. He's kind of one of those trigger and go kind of linebackers. So yeah, I'm going to take him for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I love that pick on Hay at the same time, because I was eyeing him up for the Falcons. I was like, if he was there at 15 for the Falcons, I would be sprinting that card in for Jihad Campbell. So, but yeah, he's going to go high.
Sorry, mate, sniped you there.
Just how it works. So yeah, which leads to myself at 14 with the Colts. I think this one is kind of straightforward. I'm going to go Tyler Warren. Both of your number one tight ends from the other week's tight end top 5 episode. Yeah, just give Anthony Richardson a bit of help. He's got a good set of receivers, and yeah, I think it's a big year for him. It's a huge year for the Colts. If that experiment's got to work, it has to work this year, and I think that'll help them.
Yeah, I think it's if that happens, it's almost a no excuses for Anthony Richardson. They've got a pretty good offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They've got JT running back. They have the wide receivers. They've got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce has been a really good receiver for them, and the guy from Texas they took last year. Who was that again? A.D. Mitchell. Thank you. Add Tyler Warren to that mix. Doesn't have a lot of places to hide. And then you really know if you've not got anything in him, then with that around him, then you know it's time to move on.
Indeed. Fine for the Falcons.
Yeah, that we need to improve the pass rush. The Falcons had the least amount of sacks in the NFL again last year. So we need to attack pass rush. I was tempted by Jihad Campbell here because of the scheme that Raheem Morris runs. They do like the outside, playing with outside linebackers, and for that reason, I'm going to go with Jalen Walker because I think his best snaps come when he's rushing the passer, not necessarily always off the edge, but when he's rushing the passer, and being able to flex him around the second level and across either side of the line, I think is going to open up gaps. So I think it's certainly a start for the Falcons improving. And you never know, there's a lot of edge rushers looking like they're on the trade block or being released, so they could even pick up a veteran at some point. But I'm going to go Jalen Walker here.
Yeah, I think they need to do something to affect the opposition's quarterbacks. It's been a long-term need for the Falcons, and maybe you're not going to pick a skill player this year or a quarterback, and you might have
what? Would it surprise you?
You might have a smile on your face come draft night this year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at honestly, right? It wouldn't shock me because you look at when Michael Penix had success in Washington, he had 3 elite college wide receivers. So nothing would shock me at this point. Yeah, but yeah, with all the wide receivers on the board, I could see them doing it.
We shall see. Okay, pick 16. It's the Arizona Cardinals, and it's yourself, Stu.
Yeah, so they're smack bang in the middle of this draft, and Arizona has slowly but steadily been building a team. It's taken them a couple of years, but they have definitely improved, as we see they're in the middle of the draft this year when they've been drafting very highly for the couple of years previously. They could use some help with a pass rush, interior of the defensive line. They could add something along to play alongside Marvin Harrison in the wide receiver room as well. Well, it is quite a tricky one, but I am going to give them Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. He was somebody we both really liked in our edge rankings. He's got a huge amount of sacks in the college. Yes, playing at a slightly lower level, but he was very disruptive and knows how to get back to the quarterback. And I think that he will fit in Arizona.
Yeah, he led the FBS in 17.5 sacks in 2024. There are some rumours of some off the field stuff which he addressed at the combine, which NFL teams seem to be a little bit more comfortable with. He's not going to be on everyone's board for that reason, but he's a hell of a player.
Back round to myself with the Cincinnati Bengals, pick 17. They need defense, don't they? Even the quarterback wants us to pick defense, which is a big red flag. And I'm torn between Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant. Bit of a sort of bit of a toss up, isn't it? Let's go Walter Nolan. Going off your guys had it. You had him 2 and 3, whereas Kenneth Grant had 4 and 2 when he's top 5. So I'll go with the experts there. But yeah, I think it would be crazy if it was anything other than defense. And the Bengals aren't really crazy organization, are they? So that's the pick. To pick 18, align with the Seahawks.
Yeah, so offensive line is what we keep coming back to. Everyone keeps coming back to offensive line. But I've started to ask myself recently, is that something that the Seahawks do in the first round? And we saw last year, it's not. So I'm starting to deviate away from offensive line, thinking they might be able to target someone in free agency and they'll be able to fill guard spots later on in the draft. We also now know we're going to potentially have some problems at wide receiver with Tyler Lockett going, DK Metcalf. Looks like he'll be traded. is this the first wide receiver on the board? It feels late for receiver 18. But I think there's a player on the board that they will like even more, and that's Nick Emenwari from South Carolina, who I think is a very different player to Kyle Hamilton, but can fill that same kind of role for Mike McDonald, who I think Nick Emenwari is going to play a lot closer to the line of scrimmage. He's more of he can attack the box. You can certainly play him in coverage. You can do a bit of everything, but Kyle Hamilton, I would be more comfortable playing deep, off in terms of deep man, whereas Nick Emenwari I'd want playing closer to the line of scrimmage. But you can see how this type of player fits into this defense. So I'm going to take Nick Emenwari from South Carolina, who blew up the combine.
Oh yeah, his stock hasn't half rocketed since the combine.
To the point this now feels late.
Yeah, I really did consider him at Miami. That's when I was talking about them losing safeties, and I've seen him mocked there as well. Went a different direction. I wouldn't be surprised if he went there. So yeah, I do like
that. Stu, pick number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What you gonna do?
Yeah, I have. If the guy we talked about, Chad Campbell, was on the board, he would be definitely someone who would be in play for the Buccaneers. There's a couple of directions I think that they might think about. Edge rusher is a need for the Buccaneers, and I think defensive back corner as well is they've not had steady corner play with injuries and whatnot, and the Buccaneers like big long corners. So I'm going to pick a big long corner in Siobhan Ravel. He was my one of my favourite players when we were doing the defensive backs episode. So yeah, I'm going to pick him, the cornerback from East Carolina to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Nice. Myself, Denver Broncos. I think pick number 20. I'm gonna go with the Seth McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Not the biggest need, but yeah, I think Bo Nix, young quarterback. I think that's a pretty good value for him at 20. Everyone seems to be drafting them at tight end, but as we touched on the other week, it's a deep class at tight end, not as deep at wide receiver, especially the sort of upper level wide receivers. So you could get one in round 2 or 3 to the tight end. So, and I'm surprised he mentioned it before. I'm surprised he's still there. So yeah, why not? That's the pick 20 for the Broncos.
I had the button hovering over Coulson Loveland the whole time. You sprang out on me.
I did. That was going to be, but I thought you got to.
Yeah, why not? But
yeah, it does seem like that's where everyone's going, but I don't know.
My Wi-Fi went very slightly wonky, and I know you've picked a wide receiver, but I didn't hear which one it was.
McMillan.
Yeah. Just to keep me right, so I don't go and pick him shortly.
Which means Owen with the Steelers pick 21.
Yeah, it's going to be fairly straightforward for me. I'm picking Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas. I don't think he makes it here, but someone has to fall in this mock draft. It was Jahdae Barron, but tested very, very athletically at the combine, a lot more athletically than I think we expected. Has got the versatility as well to play anywhere really in the secondary. So I'm taking Jahdae Barron to the Steelers.
Yeah, that's a really good pick. Now they have the young cornerback duo as well now with Joey Porter Jr. playing on that side. They've kind of been struggled a little bit corner for a few years now. Yeah. The Steelers, they could do with a wide receiver, but they're unlikely to pick one wide one. They've got so much good value out of receivers later on. So Jahdae Barron sounds like a good pick to them.
Stu, you're back on the block this time with the Chargers at pick 22.
Yeah, I've got a toss-up here again between a couple of players for me. They have a developing need at edge. Now that Joey Bosa is no longer in the building, and there has been rumblings that Khalil Mack might be out the door as well. So that leaves them just Tua Pelota really is their only pass rusher. So that is one. The other option, I think, is at wide receiver. And
not Loveland.
I'm not picking Loveland. No. I can see the link, but no. I have... I think that you want to maximise Justin Herbert, I think. I'm going to select Matthew Golden, the wide receiver. He has shown that he can really give them a speed element, but he's also a very good route runner. So if you marry that up with Justin Herbert, that gives you Quentin Johnson as your big-bodied receiver, Lad McConkey doing all the dirty work, and then Matthew Golden. That's a pretty nicely rounded out wide receiver group. I did really think about edge, and I was almost tempted to pick Nick Skirton, but I didn't. I've gone for a wide receiver this option.
Yeah, if they were going to go pass catcher, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Loveland, just because you can. But you're right. If you're going to pick a slot option, then that means you're going to have to get McConkey playing on the outside, and with his size, there's certainly question marks to be answered. So it's not as straightforward as it maybe seems.
Okay, myself with Green Bay Packers pick 23, and I'm going to go with Burden. Got a bit of a wide receiver run here, haven't we? I don't know if it's the biggest need, but I think it is a need, and I think at this point he's one of the best players left on the board. And look, you're paying your quarterback, give him an extra weapon. Yeah, I like Luther Burden, so that's where he goes. Hawaii, Minnesota, pick 24, please.
Yeah, so the choice is really here. Corner is a big need, and we only have 4 picks in the whole draft. So ultimately, I think if someone wanted to jump up, the Vikings would jump at the chance to move back to try and collect some extra picks. We'll see if that happens, because they'll end up picking more than 4 times in this draft. But it's at corner. I wonder if
Shedeur Sanders is still sat there.
He could be sat.
They don't need more quarterback.
No.
Yeah. I think Maxwell Hairston is certainly starting to appear in conversations here. Azariah Thomas, I really like. I wouldn't mind that. I like his value here, but I think ultimately the value of the pick here would be a defensive tackle, because you've got Kenneth Grant sat there, who, honestly, if you told me that you're going to take him for the 49ers at 11, I wouldn't have been shocked. So I'm going to take Kenneth Grant.
I was listening to a Mock Draft Day podcast when he was picked at 7 to the Jets. So yeah, picking him, he's just a really good, solid player. I think
he's freaky, and
he can move for a guy his size.
Nice. Stu, we're on pick 25 with the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Brian took my pick for the Packers. I was going to have for Houston. I thought Luther Burden would be a nice addition to their wide receiver room. I'm not sure that the other receivers, what they would be looking for. Because somebody that I did think about, but I'm probably not going to go there.
CJ Stroud offensive line Booker again. His best season came with CJ Stroud.
It did. I don't like the look of their offensive line, particularly right tackle. Who am I going to pick to play right tackle out of who's left?
Even at guard, the interior is terrible. CJ Stroud is the second most sacked quarterback.
Yeah. Who's playing at guard for them these days? Titus Howard, and that's about it.
Drew Scruggs.
Let's give them an interior guy. Let's go Gray Zabel. From North Dakota State, I think he can play anywhere across that interior 3 that they want him to play. He is really versatile. He's played at tackle. He can play any spot as well. If they needed him to move out to play right tackle at some point, whatever happens, just a really versatile player. I really like him. So yeah, let's give them Gray Zabel from North Dakota State.
Over Tile Booker?
I'm coming round to it.
I just wanted to check just before I pressed the button. You hadn't forgotten about Tyler Booker.
I've clicked the button on my side.
Okay,
I'm coming
we're
round
going
to
with
it. I think that he's more versatile.
Yeah.
I like the idea of them actually like having buttons. And being like, oh no, you clicked it. A bit of extra spice. Which leads us on to me with the Rams, pick 26. Finally, using some draft picks rather than just trading them away. Yeah, very true. But yeah, keeping the quarterback. So
could they go quarterback because they aren't going to have Stafford forever?
You can get someone to develop later on, though, right? You could go for someone like Quinn Ewers or Tyler Shirt or even Jackson Dart or someone later on if they wanted to.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State. Not sure what else to do. I feel like that's a need.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good pick. To be fair, I think he's someone. If it seems like his knee injury seems to be okay from what kind of reports, he seems to think that it's coming along fine. I think if his had no knee injury and he'd continued the way he was, he wouldn't be available at 26.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think you could have looked at corner, you could have looked at wide receiver, but I would have a higher grade on Simmons than I would at either of those positions right now. Because Josh Simmons is excellent. Say it's that an issue that's causing problems.
Fine, back to yourself. But the back end of it here with the Ravens pick 27.
Yeah, Ravens. We mentioned it before. I'd be going. We have a hole at guard. Tyler Booker, run it in. I think it would be that straightforward. There are other problems that the Ravens have and issues that they can address, but in terms of value and then filling a need, Tyler Booker.
Like it. Shoot yourself with the Lions pick 28.
It's getting down to the who would you pick and what would you do, isn't it? There's a few things for the Lions, I think, that they could do with more so on the defensive side of the ball. I am going to go for Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. I think that the interior of that defensive line, particularly with Aleem McNeil and whatnot, is going to attract attention. Aiden Hutchinson, when he comes back, is going to be double team, leave Ezeraku one-on-one. I think that's where he is going to be at his best in the NFL. And just that kind of stand-up pass rusher who's free to go one-on-one with a tackle. And I think he will do really well there. He's a player, again, someone I've maybe come round to a little bit more as time has gone on.
Myself with the Washington Commanders pick 29. I think I said last time.
Please take Colston Loveland.
Somebody
need to get him off the board.
I think the last time you put weapons around your young quarterback, and they've just brought in Deebo Samuel, who if he can get back to previous year's forms, will be a nice move for them. Maybe defensive line. I kind of don't want to pick Colston Loveland just to spite you, Owen. But
a lot of people have him as a top 10 player in this class. It's difficult to ignore that, and that he's an improvement.
Oh, go on then. I bottled it. Colston Loveland it is. Like I say, another weapon for your young quarterback.
Were you going to say something there, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only other tight end they have is Zach Ertz, isn't it? And he's about as old as I am. So, Yeah, they need.
He keeps turning back the clock though, doesn't he? But yeah, he's got to run out soon. I think.
Colson Loveland selected.
So, leads us to pick 30, Owain, with the Buffalo Bills.
Edge is where I lean. Defensive line could even go interior, to be honest with you. Someone like Derek Harmon, I think, would be a good fit. Malachi Starks is staring me in the face here, though. We could also go corner. There are players there that we like, whether it's Zaire Thomas, Maxwell Hairston, seems to be entering back of first-round conversations, but Malachi Starks is an unbelievable player who is falling down boards unnecessarily, and we seem to get this every year, right? Whether it was Brian Branch, last year it was Cooper DeJean. If a defensive back doesn't test as athletically as we maybe expect, or they get jumped by more athletic players, then they seem to fall down boards. So yeah, I'm going to go Malachi Starks, who is still, the tape is still outstanding. He hasn't got worse just because he didn't test as well as Emma Worry at the combine.
And that always happens. These types of players drop and they go to bloody good teams already because they're further down the draft board, and it's really frustrating when you look back and go, how did 28 teams, 29 teams pass on Malachi Starks? It's quite annoying.
Yeah, talking of good teams, not quite good enough this year, but yeah, they'll be there or thereabouts. It's the Chiefs. You yourself pick 31.
I think the Chiefs might be one of the teams who potentially look to trade up a little bit in this draft, because they do risk being boxed out of the better tackles, and I think it has to be a tackle for the Chiefs. The tackle situation, as we've seen, Joe Tooney was having to play left tackle at the end of the season. They paid a big chunk of money to, it was Joanne Taylor, wasn't it, that they played a big chunk at right tackle. He hasn't worked out for them. Sua Maitia is, I think, they're one of their options just now, and again hasn't really clicked for him at Kansas City yet. So I think that if Josh Simmons is already off the board, are they going to look to jump so that they're in that range? So Josh Connerly is the best tackle for me that's still on the board. So that's where I'm going to go. But I suspect that they might be one of these teams that, if Minnesota are looking to come down, that is a prime target, I think, for them. If they're looking to get draft capital, the Chiefs might want to go up into that range.
Yeah, I think that's they've had a sort of need on the offensive line for a couple of years, haven't they? And they've semi-addressed it, but not quite. So that makes a lot of sense. Myself, to close us off with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Ugh.
There's the point where the Eagles go, James Pierce Jr. falling right into our laps.
I mean, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. It's the Eagles,
Okay, that wasn't who I had, but yeah.
What were you thinking, Stu?
Skirting.
Yeah.
It's whether the off-field stuff with James Pierce is as serious as we maybe think it is, and it's nothing criminal or anything like that. It's just seems to be a lot of question marks over his work ethic at the moment, which scouts don't appear to like. Obviously, we don't personally have sources. We can read what is put online, but there is a lot of chatter about teams not liking the work ethic of James Pierce Jr. and they think he's a good player, but does he want to be great? I think is basically the quote that's flying around.
And that's why I thought about Scorsese. He's slightly that heavier kind of defensive lineman who has cut a bit of weight, and his Purdue tape was really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you choose, Brian. It's your pick, but
I'm
throwing my tuppence in.
That was who I was going for. Yeah, I think it's an Eagles pick, isn't it? I think, like you say, I think it's great value for the back end of the first round. He'll probably do pretty well there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there you go. Any thoughts and feelings, guys, on Mock Draft 2.0?
There's a lot of good players still left for round 2. I mean, players we think could go in round 1. You've got Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, we've let him fall completely. Derek Harmon, Nick Scorton, Emeka Egbuka, Donovan Jackson. Landon Jackson. I've seen people have in the back end of first round. Azariah Thomas, Maxwell Hairston. There's a lot. TJ Sanders. There's a lot of good players who, if the draft plays out like this, Friday night might be a fun night as well.
Yeah,
it always is. It'll be interesting if Sanders does fall, or he seems to be falling already.
It's difficult.
We'll know for sure by the time we get
out.
to our top 5, but
yeah,
that'll feel all the
It's
talk.
one of those where, because of so many teams that have been and still are quarterback needy, that you push them up the board. But I don't think Sanders' value was ever in the top 20 range. You're just trying to find a fit, right? You think they need a quarterback. Do they take a punt? So it may be that Sanders' draft stock is just leveling out to where it should be. But we probably think there's a spot for him in the first round. But if he doesn't go in the top 10, it's then difficult to land on one outside of the Steelers. And hey, Steelers taking the quarterback in a bad class. We've been there before.
It only takes one team, though, doesn't it? 31 teams cannot like him. All it takes is one to actually really like Shedeur Sanders, and we can see him working with us, and he's interviewed well with them. He's keen to go, and he's shown them something. Only takes one.
Yeah. It's the same with top 10 players, right? That people go, this NFL had a top 10 grade on this player. Like, no, not necessarily. There's just one team did, and it's the same with the back end of the first round. Like, if you've got a first round grade on a player, then you move up to take them.
It's all fun of the draft. Bring it on, indeed. Well, if you're not top 5 fans, if you've made it all this way through without you've managed to last through the draft, we'll be back with another top 5 very soon. In the meantime, check out all our previous episodes. Very good. Lots of players that the guys have looked into. And that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back soon. Take care.